September 2018. I was a 21-year-old forestry student looking for some easy tuition money when I took a job as a remote asset monitor for a private land management firm. The job description was simple. I'd stay in a small, renovated observer cabin on a 12,000-acre private estate in northern Pennsylvania. My only task was to monitor a grid of 16 motion-activated trail cameras scattered across the property to watch for poachers or illegal timber harvesters. It was supposed to be the perfect gig: total isolation, plenty of time to study, and a decent paycheck. But by the third night, I realized I wasn't just watching the woods. Someone in the woods was watching me back. The cabin was basic but functional. It had a small kitchenette, a cot, and a massive desk with 4 monitors that cycled through the camera feeds. Most of the time the screens were dark. They only flickered to life when something moved in front of a lens. Usually it was just a deer, a stray coyote, or the wind catching a heavy branch. But on that Wednesday night, at exactly 2:44 in the morning, camera 14, the one furthest from the cabin, was triggered. I looked up from my textbook. The screen showed a grainy black and white image of a narrow deer trail. At first I didn't see anything. I assumed it was a false trigger. But then I noticed a shape standing just at the edge of the infrared light's reach. It was a man. He wasn't wearing camo or hunter's orange. He was wearing a dark, heavy overcoat and a wide-brimmed hat that obscured his face. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, staring directly into the lens. Whispering, I leaned in, squinting at the low-resolution feed. In crude black marker, the sign said, "Camera 14 is cold." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't understand what it meant. I checked the system logs. All cameras were functioning perfectly. I tried to tell myself it was just a local prankster, maybe some bored teenager from the nearest town 30 miles away. I picked up the radio to call the main estate office, but all I got was a wall of white noise. That's when I realized the landline was dead too. 10 minutes later, camera 13 flickered on. It was a half-mile closer to the cabin. The same man was there. This time his sign said, "Camera 13 is cold." He was moving toward me with terrifying precision. He knew exactly where the blind spots were. He knew exactly where the next camera was located. And he was moving fast. I felt a wave of pure, cold vulnerability wash over me. I was miles from the nearest paved road, with no way to call for help, and a stranger was systematically marking his progress toward my front door. I grabbed the heavy iron poker from the fireplace. It was the only weapon I had. I turned off all the lights in the cabin, hoping to make myself less of a target. But the glow from the monitors was inescapable. I watched the screens like a hawk. Camera 12, camera 11. Each time the man was closer. Each time he held up a sign marking the camera's number. By the time he reached camera 8, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Whispering, the spare set I kept in a magnetic box under the wheel well of my truck. This meant he hadn't just been in the woods. He had been at the cabin while I was sleeping. He had been inches away from me, and I hadn't even woken up. And this is the part I need you to understand. He wasn't trying to hide. He wanted me to know. He was turning this into a countdown. I retreated to the small bathroom in the center of the cabin, the only room without a window. I sat on the floor. The iron poker gripped so hard my knuckles were white. I could hear the wind howling through the trees outside, but every other sound felt amplified. A branch hitting the roof sounded like a gunshot. I kept the door cracked just enough to see the monitors in the main room. Camera 4 went live. He was at the edge of the clearing now. He wasn't holding a sign anymore. He was holding a small handheld radio. Suddenly, the radio on my desk, the one that had been nothing but static for the last hour, cracked to life. "Camera 1 is next, Elias." My heart stopped. I had never told the company my name. I had signed all my paperwork as E. Thompson. The only place my full name appeared was on my driver's license, which was in my wallet, which was on the nightstand next to my bed. I realized then that this wasn't a random encounter. I hadn't just stumbled into a squatter's territory. I had been chosen. I heard the crunch of gravel outside. Slow, deliberate. He was walking around the cabin, dragging something metallic against the wooden siding. The wooden siding. The sound was deafening in the silence of the woods. He circled the building once, then twice. Then the footsteps stopped right in front of the door, whispering. Then 3 slow, heavy knocks. Elias, the voice came through the door, sounding eerily calm. The company didn't tell you about the final inspection, did they? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was tight with terror. You did well, the voice continued. You stayed at your post. You monitored the assets, but you forgot to monitor the most important one. I heard the sound of my own car keys sliding into the deadbolt. The door swung open. I saw the silhouette of the man in the overcoat standing in the doorway, framed by the moonlight. He didn't come inside. He just stood there for a moment, tossed my wallet and my keys onto the floor, and then turned around and walked back into the darkness of the trees. I stayed locked in that bathroom until the sun came up. I didn't care about the job. I didn't care about the paycheck. As soon as it was light enough to see, I ran to my truck, floored it down the dirt track, and didn't stop until I reached a police station 2 towns over. When the police investigated the cabin, they found something the man had left behind. Underneath my cot, there was a small, high-definition camera that hadn't been part of the company's grid. It had been recording me the entire time I was in the cabin. But the worst part came a week later. I received a final paycheck in the mail from the land management firm. It was for the full amount plus a performance bonus. Tucked inside the envelope was a small printed photo. It was a picture of me, taken from the perspective of the camera under my bed, while I was sleeping on the first night. On the back, written in the same black marker, were the words, "Subject monitored, asset secured. See you for the next contract." I never went back to forestry. I moved to a high-rise apartment in the city where there are no trees and no silence. But sometimes, late at night, I'll get a notification on my phone from my doorbell camera, and for a split second, before I look at the screen, I'm terrified I'm going to see a man in a wide-brimmed hat, holding a sign that says Camera 1 is cold. And that's where the story ends. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe,